take the whole class.
Stock car.
Okay, great. Other announcements? Are those doors sold out?
Yeah.
Both of them?
Nicholas Payton's playing next week.
I'm going to that.
Who's playing with them?
Phil Stewart, Vicente Archer.
Nice.
And the week after, Julian Lodge is playing. And the week with my kids.
What night is the Nicholas Page thing?
It's the 19th and the 20th.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I'm playing at the Tico this Saturday. Just Valentine's, some sappy music, maybe jazz, maybe some Titanic. Come out. Romantic. 8 to 10.
She's not here, but I heard Ashley Varner's playing at Mercury Inn on Saturday.
Just the two of them?
I think it's like a whole dinner set. I don't remember who else is.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm playing on Saturday at the Crest with Born to Wander. We start at 8. We do a set at 8:30 and a set at 10. So come out. There's also a GPO concert that night. What kind of 10 o'clock set is kind of for a lot of those folks that come over after that concert.
Is that in the theater or over the bar?
Huh?
Is that in the theater?
No, it's just in where all the other gigs happen. But it will be, hopefully, folks will come out and it'll be a listening audience.
What's the Greeley Phil playing?
Bernstein.
Candide Ouverture, Symphonic Dancers, West Side Story. Good program.
Bernstein's daughter is going to be
Yeah,
there?
sure.
And Leonard Bernstein's daughter is going to be there as well.
What's that, Joe?
I didn't hear
Yeah, he takes after his teacher.
Nope.
What was that? What?
Yeah, okay, Brian?
So the boroughs are starting a every other week kind of residency-ish thing at Wiley Roots on Thursdays from 7 to 9, I think, so it still works out to go to the Crest afterwards if you want to do a little really tour. And it'll be Alex playing, I would say it'll be Tom's first gig and playing on organ.
All memorized. Good. All right, next. Yes, Gabe.
Myself, Josh, and Fryer will be playing at the Crest this Thursday. If you could all make it out, that would be wonderful. We've got 6 new drinks that are really good. One of them is delicious.
Tom?
So I'm playing with a really great guitar player, Taylor Scott, songwriter as well, in Loveland, for the Crochet and Teacup Pig Racing Festival. It's not a joke, but we're doing about an hour set. In Loveland. We're downtown Loveland.
Saturday?
Friday night. Friday night. It's gonna be
Okay.
Ron?
I'm playing the Jays on Saturday, but you should go to the Born to Wander thing because it'll be great. But if you catch the early set of Born to Wander, and then you want to bring your horn, come play Jays.
So do we have, is all this on that page? You know, do we have all the stuff included?
Everything that's going on?
Well,
No, and I encourage everyone, if you have something that you'd like to have posted, you can either ask me to post it, but even better is if you post it yourself, is fine. As long as it's happening in Greeley and it's jazz, then it is fair game for the site. I'll post everything that I know of, but I don't know about everything when I make that post every week, as well as I don't want to post multiple gigs at different venues necessarily to conflict. I don't know, but just post it on there yourself. It's an open forum.
it's an open forum. Yeah, so do it. And where would everybody go to get this information?
Greeley Jazz, Facebook page, Greeley Jazz.
Yeah. Okay, good. Any other announcements? Yes.
Yeah, did I see his faculty quartet playing on Monday night at the Crest? Is that?
I don't know, they just tell me where to be.
Yes.
Same here. I saw a poster.
Yes, yeah, I
posted
think
in my
it's,
book.
yeah, Monday. Monday night, yes, yes. Monday night's a busy day, because there's, we have auditions on Monday, and then there's a trombone recital that evening, and then we're playing basically after the trombone recital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, please, come, everybody. It'll be a fun hang.
I would just mention with that, I'm imagining part of the intention is that students who are auditioning that day will be able to come and hang out that night. And just an encouragement, you know, to us, for students that come and audition, you know, a lot of times what can be really significant for a student is they're considering coming to a school or the connections that they make with current students. So, you know, feel free to come and hang out. That Monday's gonna be crazy because there's obviously all the normal classes going on, plus 100 auditions going on that day. So it'll be full, but, you know, just an encouragement to come and meet some prospective students and hang out with them.
Yeah, if you see somebody that's visiting, you know, imagine what it's like when you were visiting other universities. Please just go up and introduce yourself, you know, and ask where, you know, where they're from, and tell them a little bit about what you're doing, what you're studying here, and tell them about your experiences. Those can be, you know, you are our most valuable resource, you know, and the most valuable resource for those students that are, you know, wanting to come to school here. So please help us make them feel welcome on campus.
Yeah, that's another source of, it's an investment in your degree, you know, talking to these students and connecting with them. And sometimes even if they didn't come to school, you still have connected with them, and you might meet them further on down the line. But the more students we have and the quality being strong, that's an investment in everybody's degree, everybody that's studying here now.
Yeah. Yeah, we always have people come up to us that were here years ago, and they were like, yeah, thanks for making my degree significant. You know, that's always a nice thing to hear. So we want to do that and continue to, you know, to encourage other great students like yourselves to come to school here. So good. Other announcements? All right. Are you planning on the concert, Gabby, with the Greeley film? No? West Side Story, man. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So, all right. Well, let's turn it over. Let's hear some music.
Thank you.
going to play for you is a Dizzy Gillespie tune, A Night in Tunisia. And thank you again. We are the Greenville Combo.
landed at a perfect point, I thought. And the only thing, I thought, Ryan, you could definitely play out more. And I don't know if it's the amp or I think it's maybe just really plugging out, you know? Sure. But your solo just sounds really good. Really good, so keep it up.
Kenyon?
Who's directing this group?
Ryan, Ryan's done.
Nice. I really think that you guys have like a cool vibe as a group, and I dig that. Thought the tunes were great. Specifically, Eli, I thought that you've got some more language worked out, and I like the way you're pacing your solos. I'd like to hear you maybe play out a little bit more. It sounded like you were a little under the trombone in balance, and there were just a few instances where I was wishing I could hear you sound a little bit fuller. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
I really liked the set. I thought Tunisia sounded great. I've heard you guys rehearse that, and it's improved a lot since I've heard it. Whose arrangement was the second tune? Okay, cool. Yeah, Joe, I really liked that chart. One thing that you may want to take a look at is there's a section of that tune where you've got guitar and tenor playing octaves. I think it's just one octave, maybe two.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool vibe, but you may want to check out like what if you put them together range-wise, because the blend will still be pretty cool, and it'll keep Eli from sounding like he might be like barking in the low end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it kind of stands out. Just you may want to experiment with it. If you don't like it, it's totally fine. Just something to check out. And then really, like, I think we can all keep just getting after it. You know, like it's sounding so much better. Like I'm hearing tons and tons of improvement, and that's awesome. But we're not quite there yet, right? Like we just got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing our sound out, trying to figure out how to get a really strong sound, especially from the horns, right? We're making big strides, and then we can really dig into our time a lot more. I feel like especially as we solo, and I know it's like high pressure and form and all that, but if we're really just thinking, especially sound-wise, it's easy for the time thing to fall in there too, and then, all else fits.
Right.
I really enjoyed the performance. I thought the groove was really strong on the first tune. Horn players in particular, I thought you guys were playing with some really good time during those breaks on Night in Tunisia. But overall for me, Night in Tunisia kind of fell flat. And I know that you guys were like going for like a quieter vibe, because I talked to Ryan about it beforehand. But I felt like it never like really grew, and you guys weren't shaping it as a band, like this is where we're going to get intense and this is where we're going to bring it back down. And I think that happened in the solos as well. They kind of just flatlined.
Okay,
Should
good.
have said the good stuff.
Yeah, Josh?
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
I thought the set was really good. You guys are improving constantly. One thing I would say is for the rhythm section, you guys look like you're not really having a lot of fun. You're not really looking at each other. You're kind of playing what you want to play, and I feel like in order to make the music better, you got to break out of your shell and look at and hear what your bandmates are playing, and that'll benefit the music overall. I think comping wise behind the soloists, just look at each other, right? Like feel stuff out, listen, set stuff up. Besides that, good job.
David?
I'd just like to say I'd like to see the horns get closer to the band. Josh really passed the trap set over here on the right, and I think that would help you locking in as a group. And just, what Josh said, have fun with it. Yeah, get the energy and the intensity going. You can have a lot of energy and a lot of intensity and not play loud. So, work on things like that. Have fun with it. But yeah, nice set. Enjoyed it.
Ben?
Yeah, I would agree with the first two comments that there's a lot of like improvement here, especially Josh, Eli, and Ryan. Your guys' language and like outlining the changes, that's like coming along super well. I'd like to hear maybe a little more like motivic development
songs really like broke a certain level dynamic wise. You know, it all kind of stayed pretty chill. And that could be fine, you know, but then maybe there's other ways to compensate for that if that's gonna be the design. To still keep things kind of interesting, you know. And I think for you, I think you can maybe still like dig in a little bit more when you're soloing and maybe do some things that I think was more like pianistic. You know, it's like you're one of the few people that can solo with chords and things like that. And I think that can help. You know, sometimes it can be hard piano, you know, since you're just relying on your physical application to generate sound. You know, there can be texture ways of creating more intensity to, you know, that maybe could be explored more. Because I think your lines are really nice, but to me it sounded like it was mostly lines and not as many other kind of textures as are available.
Ted?
For Ryan, that last two maybe, I know shifting up to that B flat is kind of might be a drag sometimes. Maybe, you know, I kind of like to like go across and maybe, but it's also like just first maybe that's less, you know, if you do that, just like pivot and go across the strings. That should be easier, especially when you play it.
Yeah, sure.
Wow, a lot of comments. Some good observations, though. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've got some stuff to say. I do hear kind of individual improvements. I felt like the two big things that stick out to me, one is group sound. Like, make sure that you listen back and hear the recording so that you're really hearing what's happening. I think we have an idea of what's happening, but it's not totally getting across the same way to the audience. And perception out here might be different than what you guys are thinking back there. So yeah, Ryan, I felt like I needed a lot more of your presence in the band. I just couldn't, and I don't think it has to do much with the amp. It has to do with, you know, digging in and kind of like projecting your sound.
Sure.
I hear so much improvement in the things that you're playing that I'd like to, and I didn't know if it was, I'm sitting kind of over here, I didn't know if, but hearing other people's perception seems to be a common thing. The second chart had all of this dynamic quality to it, right? Well, I kind of missed that in the first chart. And I think the word that kind of stuck out to me was we sounded passive. We sounded like we were kind of like, yeah, we're playing some stuff and our stuff's getting better, but we're not really integrated in a band way. And even if you might feel like when you're playing, you're not being passive, that's kind of what's getting out here. That's my feeling about it. So in terms of accompaniment, like we're playing the chords, we're playing them when they happen, but we're not involved. We're not playing releases of phrases together. We're not, all of these things that create shape. And when you play all the articulation that we've been talking about in here, and you create shape, all of a sudden, those things, those note choices that you're making come to life, right? All of a sudden, it's like way more interesting to listen to. And I feel like for instance, your solo opening up the second tune. I wanted to hear more of that in everything that you did. You know what I mean? So listen back, dig in, you know, and see if there's a way of projecting the things that you're kind of into. You know, make a big deal out of stuff. Even if it's a quote unquote chill vibe, there can still be an intensity and dynamic shape. And I don't feel like that's really getting across. Jimmy?
Yeah. Some good things. I think the group thing, what everybody's basically saying is kind of a similar thing, is that, you know, you got to be into what's going on up here, you know, and there's not enough of really being detailed and focused on each other as an ensemble as to kind of focus on the part. Even from an audience perspective, you know, I mean, when a cat's playing a piano solo, I want to see the rest of the guys in the group like checking him out and seeing what is gonna happen. You know, I don't wanna really see guys like, yeah, I hope the crock pot didn't boil over. Again, yeah. It's my solo now. You know, there's no way that you're really gonna be that focused if you can't check in. Also, the soloist needs that support. You know what I mean? If I'm playing a drum solo and everybody's kind of like, hey, what's going on? You know, whatever. And I don't feel like I'm getting any support from my band. You know, so, you know, even when these guys are playing, you know, either focus on the soloist and you guys got to have your heads up and looking at each other, right? The thing that everybody likes in music, without fail, and no matter what culture you're from, is passion. You know, and if there's no passion behind what it is that you're playing, you know, that's the good stuff. It doesn't matter if it's good or the worst music you've ever heard. I'd rather hear a bunch of kids just run around and throw a bunch of cymbals and crap if they really meant it. Because that's passion, right? It's the same thing to me, you know what I mean? So you can't play music passively, you know? Everybody's time is getting better. A nice solo break, you know? I think that, you know, I'll just kind of go through here. I think, you know, you're playing a lot better ideas. I'd love to hear you, some articulation get into your playing, you know. I'm not hearing like a lot of articulation, which is going to change depending on the style and the tempo of what you're playing. Yep. You can't play something funky like the first thing and not have like this real intense type of articulation. You know, and that has to come from the sound of your instruments too. You know, bass drum, etc. You know, your sound is a lot of broken, choppy things. Da, 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 da. If you can try to use a combination of that plus, you know, connecting the notes, you're going to take down your accent level. Because right now everything's coming out is really accented, as opposed to, you know, lowering the rest of the notes, which is going to create a sense of accent level. Does that make sense? And then you guys, you know, now's the time for everybody to actually practice and do things that you might not get to do in the real world. You know, so it would be really great for you guys as a rhythm section to take a tune like Night Tunisia that changes fields and practice with the metronome together. Because we got too much up and down between each section of the tune. And so even if you're going to play that swung feel, which I like, against his bass line, then those offbeats have to line up, right? And so when you go back and you listen to the recording, listen to where somebody's got to jump in and find those offbeats. Because if I was one of these guys trying to solo, because that is the accompaniment, there's too much variation there, and I can't find those offbeats. Does that make sense? So everybody, when you're soloing, it's the same thing. Where are your eighth notes lining up? Are your beats lining up on the beat, and are your offbeats lining on off the beat? And are they consistent? You know, that makes all the difference in the world.
And listen to the Moon Train arrangement, like all those rhythm section hits and everything. Is that really lining up? You know, in the bass and piano and drums.
Intensity. Ah! Do that. Ah! Okay, go, let's give him a hand. Scrapple from the apple.
So